Delinquent Nation, Prison Diaries, we're back. I got Carl Scott here. I noticed you on Conan's PTSD documentary on Channel 4.
Yeah.
I noticed like what you said there was like proper touching, you know. I know yourself, you've got quite an interesting story, and I basically want to get into your whole story, growing up and, you know, your prison life as well.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, I just kind of want to start off with that documentary. How did you find yourself doing that?
What, with Conan?
Yeah, with Conan.
I was contacted by a production company.
Yeah.
They researched me on Google.
Yeah.
And the conversation basically started with, his name was Henry, nice geezer as well. And it basically started around, because they was doing stuff around PTSD, and they was looking at kids that struggle with PTSD that go unnoticed, so they slip through the net. And bearing in mind, where I work with quite a lot of kids, that's something that you generally see that. So when I had a conversation with him and I told him more about my story, he was like, I want you. I don't want the young person, because you was that young person.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want you for this. He didn't tell me exactly what it were at the start. So anyway, I carried on going through different conversations with him. And then he broke to me a couple of weeks later. It was for Conan's Untold, PTSD, Trapped in Trauma.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow. I was like, okay. And that's how it came about, really. So I was then invited down to Essex. I spent most of the day filming with Conan and sharing my story with them.
Now you mentioned something in the documentary that like you know, the maddest thing is, because when we got talking, like I think we was messaging each other on Instagram, and I didn't notice that like, it was actually you first, but then as we got talking, like I went on your page and I saw your face, and I was like, oh my God, that's my man from that documentary. And I was like, because out of all of them, your story was like touched me a bit, you know, and I big up Conan as well, because I feel like the whole PTSD thing, a lot of people suffer from it. A lot of people don't know they're suffering from it, especially being on the roads and that. And, you know, a lot of the guys don't really talk about mental health or anything like that. And I think it's important that, you know, people like yourself, people like him can come on camera and really talk about it, you know. But can you talk me through a bit of what you was talking about then? Because you was talking about, you said that something happened with your best mate. Can you tell me a bit about that?
So, I mean, there was a couple of things on the actual program that I discussed, which I like some of the bits I haven't really shared too much, because the thing where I've done like different podcasts and stuff, I think if you put everything out there on the table straight away, you've got really nothing to keep flowing with conversation. Yeah. So I thought,
there's anything that you want to elaborate on, like
yeah. So I think the main part of what I did with Conan was the stabbing of my best mate. So we kind of touched on that, and obviously bearing in mind, obviously he's done the streets, like he knows about that life. Do you know what I mean? And that was my life growing up from like 13 onwards. So when as the years have gone on, I never thought that anything like that bothered me as much. But because I've been talking about it so much for the last couple of years, every time I do a podcast, I'm drained after I've finished, because I'm talking about stuff that I didn't even think bothered me. And this is where like the undiagnosed PTSD goes with it. Like, it's undiagnosed. I diagnosed it myself. So with my pal, obviously we was all like, you know, like you can see the eyes of the public and like you're a gang. You're classed as a gang.
But you're just a group of friends,
yeah, we're just friends, just say gang. We're just antisocial. We're just causing drama, and we're just being kids and teenagers, and we was involved in some crazy stuff. Like I'm from quite a rough part of Nottingham. Like that was our life. So that's how we grew up. But yeah, you know, and it was like he was seen with the wrong person, my pal. And this guy, I didn't even like the kid anyway. I thought he was spooky. He was well strange. Do you know what I mean? And I said to him a couple of times, he's going to get you in trouble. He was like, no, he's all right. He's all right. I said, no, we don't like him. And I wanted to slap him. Yeah. But he wouldn't let me. And I was quite off key back then. I'd slap everyone. Like, I was just mad. I was a small man syndrome. I was a right tiny kid as well.
Yeah.
But I used to just hit out all the time at people. And I did want to hit him, but he wouldn't let me. So obviously he was my best mate. So I just went with what he said. And then this one night, we was all chilling on a corner. And we was all sat on a wall. And then this car just comes screeching up. Obviously, like these things happen. People say to me numerous times, "Oh yeah, some friend you ran off." Like, yeah, of course. Like, we do that. We don't know who's jumping out of that car. Yeah. So everyone's scarpered. We shot off from left, right. We was gone, but he didn't. He froze on the wall and he just stayed where he were. So we was like shouting at him, but then these guys got out of the car, and one of them that got out of the car, the passenger side, he had a huge knife. But they've gone like running straight to him, and he's still stuck there. He's like it was like a look of fright on his face. He was just like, do you know what I mean?
It's the them situations. So like, you know, some people, I think it's the fight or flight thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Some
and he froze.
He froze.
Like, he literally froze, and we shouted. It was like he couldn't hear you. And then they ran up to him, and the one with the knife just like stuck it in his chest. But as they stuck it in his chest, he's like fell back on the wall. His legs were still hanging over the wall at the time. They've like run off obviously and jumped back in the car and screeched off. So then we've like gone running to him, and then Leighton was like just literally like struggling for breath. He was struggling really bad. He had blood coming out of his mouth. Like, it was gruesome, like a proper gruesome little sight. Eyes rolling. He couldn't breathe.
How old is you at this time? So?
15.
15.
Yeah. And it was a struggle. So obviously at that time, you're trying to tell him like, everything's all right. And he was like squeezing his hand. He was literally struggling to breathe. Didn't know how bad the situation were at that time. Yeah, he had a knife sticking out of his chest. Didn't know where. So, but it turned out it was through his heart. So he weren't going to survive that. The knife was still there. It was still in his chest. So they
no
left
way.
it. Yeah. And he took his last breath. So
you was with him at the time?
Yeah, on my legs.
Wow.
So it was hard, but then and then it still didn't change my behaviour. I think it made me worse, to be fair.
You was young at the time, innit?
Yeah, like it was the life as well. Like we've had a few people die and a couple people shot, and that's how we grew up. But you don't expect it to happen to ones that are really close to you. Yeah, we know, like obviously associate-wise, and like people have been stabbed or shot. But when it comes like close, like it's your best friend, it's a bit of a different scenario. And then you're obviously your first mind on that is like revenge, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah.
But these people, obviously, we knew who they were. They're not like someone to be messing around with, like Jamaican yardies. Like, they don't fuck about. Yeah. So it was kind of like, it's just one of them swept under the carpet kind of things. It's just like, is what it is. But
so you've never really been able to deal with it?
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. I can understand how that makes it even worse. Yeah.
It's hard. He was only young. And obviously, like, when you look back now, there's nothing even about it. There's not, like, he lived with his nan. This is obviously years ago. She's obviously passed away. So, like, who's, like, family? Like, where parents, like, he lived with his nan because parents was on drugs. And so he that's all he had. So, obviously, family-wise, was just, like, us on the road, like, and just doing our thing. And he lost his life because of it. But he lost his life because of this geezer, the one that I didn't like.
So did you end up saying or doing anything?
He disappeared.
Oh, you just got
gone.
off? Yeah.
Because obviously that had happened to Leighton anyway. This was going to happen to him as well. Yeah. It was over him. He robbed someone's house.
Yeah.
So where he robbed the house, he robbed the wrong person's house. And it was only something, it wasn't even a lot. It was a bit of weed and a few £100 in cash. But he's kill you over £1, bruv. Yeah. Like, it's principle.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So he lost his life because of somebody else who, like, is just completely vanished, and now a 15-year-old kid's just dead.
Bro, I'm sorry to hear that, man. Yeah, because that was like, I was deep in that, man. And I guess I understand as well, because a lot of shit happens when you're younger, and you don't process it, and I guess that's where the whole PTSD comes from. You don't process it, and and obviously, like you said, you never really got to get your get back. So it's like, it just it just must be there, like blocked out maybe. I don't know.
It was blocked out for years.
Yeah.
Because obviously that wasn't just the only thing. Like I was stabbed myself not so long after that.
Yeah.
So I had quite a few things to have to deal with.
See, because of that situation, obviously with your best friend, and when you got stabbed, did you feel the worst, or did you think this is nothing, or?
I just shook it off.
Yeah.
Like I've said it many times. It's just like one of them. It's one of them armor things, isn't it? You wear it on the sleeve.
Yeah.
I was rolling around with a bit of a limp for a while, and then obviously everyone's asking like, "Are you all right? Oh, how are you? I heard you got stabbed." So you're getting quite a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And I'm still a kid. I'm a teenager. I'm liking the attention that I'm
Yeah,
getting.
yeah.
Lucky I survived. Do you know what I mean? But it was the attention that you're getting, and even that wasn't still enough to change your behaviour. Oh, it made me worse.
Yeah.
Like I was literally off key after that.
Right. That's crazy. But I'm gonna I want to start now with your upbringing. Can you tell me about what me or Carl? Yeah.
Yeah. Wicked.
If you ever want a drink or anything as well, yeah, there's a fridge there.
He's keeping me awake. I'm usually in bed by now.
Nah, fully.
Usually sleeping. Oh.
Yeah, so tell me about your upbringing. Tell me about like who did you grow up with? You know, before you kind of got into the roads, and obviously that unfortunate incident. How was life before that?
Life was dysfunctional for me.
Word.
In fact, to be fair, like I think most of the family life was dysfunctional. It was one of them kind of families that struggles day in, day out. So like my dad wasn't really someone that was interested in being a dad. He was quite abusive and violent to my mum.
You used to see that growing up?
Yeah. I'm like the earliest memory, like with my dad, he was always out. He was either at the bookies or he's in a pub or something. That was my dad.
Yeah.
He was a boxer. He was the same. He was always like causing chaos on the streets and stuff growing up himself. Do you know what I mean? And I think even like what my parents always used to say, like I took the road of my dad, the way that I grew up. But obviously I didn't even know my dad to grow up like that. So he was 2 years old. When I was 2 years old, there was an incident in our flats. We lived in a block of flats, and there was my mum wanted to leave him. Didn't work out for her. He weren't up for that at all. I was crying as a baby. He hung me over a balcony of the flats out the window by my legs. So I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
How old are you two?
About 2.5, yeah. I remember that.
And my daughter's like two and change, so
yeah. My daughter was 4.
Yeah.
So like it's so there's some elements of kids you like sponges anyway.
Yeah.
And if you've had something that's been really traumatic,
they could remember that.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember that. He pulled me back in. Obviously, I don't know everything around it. I just know that had happened, and then obviously the stories that have followed on from there. So he was threatening to leave. My mum was threatening to leave. He didn't want her to leave. He used me as a tool for that. He pulled me back in. He had a Stanley knife. He was threatening to cut my mum up with it. Instead, he chose to cut the sofas and the walls and stuff out of anger, and he was just slicing everything up. At least it weren't my mum, obviously. And then he stormed out. At that point, when he'd stormed out, my mum took me to my grandparents. Went and stayed with my grandparents for a bit. They ended up getting back together, and then him and my uncle set fire to a fiddler's house.
Like a paedophile.
Yeah. So they set fire to his house because they'd heard what he'd been up to. It turned out he weren't in the house at the time anyway. They ended up getting 5 years, both of them, and that was
What, your mum?
No, my uncle and my dad.
Oh, sorry, your uncle.
Yeah.
And your dad.
So they got 5 years, which then obviously that's like my mum's get out card then, because he went about.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. We left, stayed with my grandparents for a bit longer, and then my mum got another property, and then that's when she met my stepdad,
In the same area or?
Yeah, vaguely around the same area.
Yeah,
So like at that point, I lived in Bulwell. Like, people from Nottingham, if like you don't know the area, but like, I lived in Bulwell, and there was these. We lived in Crabtree. We've lived quite a few spots around there, and if I remember, my stepdad he lived in Basford. Basford, there he had like his own house, and we moved in with him. There was loads of other different things going on at the time. Like my uncle was just coming back from the army. And he brought someone back from the army, a friend of his. She ended up having an affair with this geezer, and then he put me in a dustbin and wheeled me to the pond in the back garden.
Word.
I got terrorized as a kid, seriously.
Yeah.
And when I would have opened the lid of the dustbin, I'd have fell in the pond. Luckily, the next door neighbour had saw what he'd done, and they come round the house because my mum left me with him for about an hour when she went shopping up the road.
Yeah.
And in that time, that's what he'd done. I also remember that.
How old did you around that time?
About 5.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like there was quite a few things that happened as a kid. Like a lot of stuff that had stood out. So obviously, behaviour-wise, going up to like up to like 9 or 10.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to get to. Do you think that obviously affected your behaviour maybe in school? Was you getting into fights and whatnot like because of that? Or
it made me more of a timid kid.
Oh, word. So it
went the opposite way,
yeah.
I didn't like fighting when I was younger.
Yeah.
I was really scared to fight, and I didn't even really want to punch people in the face. I'd rather kick them in the shin and run.
Yeah.
That's how it worked for me. I didn't want to fight anyone. I was a small kid. Like I'm not that big now for the age that I am. So when I was that age, well, let's say when I was like 14, 15, I still looked like I was about 10.
Yeah.
I was really small, like baby face, blonde hair, like curtains back in the 90s, you know, like that's how I used to be. And so I just looked really, really innocent. So when it come to, having arguments with different people, I weren't up for it at all. It used to freak me out. I remember one time I was at primary school and I had this Asian kid called Urkham. Urkham was who do you know you are, and he followed me all the way to my house. Yeah. And he was trying to get at me all day, and he followed me to my house. And as I got outside my house, I thought I was safe. I thought, yeah, sweet, I'm safe. My mum's gonna open the door in a minute, and she never opened the door at that time. So the geezer, he grabbed me he pulled my hair, like who pulls hair? He pulled my hair. He pulled my hair and punched me in the stomach, and I let it happen. Like, this is the thing, that these things I used to just let happen. I never used to retaliate to it because I was too freaked out by doing that. And yeah, still to this day, I've never got you back for that. So
what was the turning point then? What was the point when you was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna bang back now? So my parents was musical.
Yeah. So they always used to go to like different pubs and stuff and do singing, and they used to be on a circuit all the time. So like we was never really with parents quite a lot. We was more around like grandparents and stuff, or babysitters. And I had another uncle, and he'd gone through some crazy time with his missus. I don't even know what was going on for him at that point. He was growing his own weed, and he was just doing homegrown weed. So he had like bare black bags filled with this stuff. And even obviously that I didn't even know what this stuff really were, really, to be fair. Always used to remember the smell when I used to walk in his house, and that, like, what's that? That's fruit you smell. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is that? And he's just like, because he's smoking roll-ups, you just think he's smoking fags, but he's blazing.
Blazing, yeah.
And so he broke up with my auntie, and she took my cousin to Newcastle, and that sent him a little bit loopy. He was drinking loads. He'd lost his missus, but there was obviously something going on for him. But so where I was there quite a lot, I ended up getting abused by him, and it went on for a good amount of time, like about 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, about 3 years. And obviously I never said anything to anybody with what was going on.
How old did you...
I was 9 years old when it started.
Really?
So it went on till about 13. And it all obviously, even then I was even more like quite isolated at that point because of what was going on. It was such a big secret. And where I was a little bit naughty anyway, and I used to tell the odd porky here and there, he used that against me by saying that no one would believe anything you'd say. And I believed that because I did used to lie quite a lot. So like the boy cry wolf, it Yeah, and it was just a manipulation.
You knew if you had said something, you know, it wouldn't get anywhere.
Nah. So then, yeah, in the end, my mum was working in Royal Mail at the time, and I come back from school one day, and I was being bullied at school by this one kid as well, Ashley. You know you are as well. So I was being bullied by this kid called Ashley at school, and he was proper terrorising me in front of my friends, girls, just embarrassing me. And again, I was never doing anything back. And obviously, I've got all this going on as well in the background. Big secret, pure manipulation. Own family member that you're supposed to look up to who's just doing some crazy stuff. And she asked me to walk her to the bus stop. I walked her to the bus stop, and she randomly just came out with it. Has your uncle ever done anything to you? And I'm like, what? Like, where's that come from? It was just a strange conversation of like, what?
Yeah.
So instantly, boom, denied it. No.
You denied it?
Yeah, straight away. Yeah, I denied it. It freaked me out because I didn't know like why she was asking me that question.
Did you think, you know, because I'm trying to understand, did you think you might have got in trouble for saying it? Did you feel like...
I was scared, yeah. Because obviously my uncle was a fighter as well. Like, he was off his head. You know, he was always in fights. I'd be in pubs and see him, like, some of them he never won, but he always got back up. He was getting banged out left, right and centre. And he's like, boom, not out cold for about 3 minutes. And he's back up ready to go again. So he can have a tear up, do you know what I mean? So he was a scary guy. So even though he was doing the stuff that he was doing... he was still scary to me. I'm a kid. Do you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to get to come up? And so obviously, if I then say, yeah, nothing happens, he's going to beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm trying to keep this as like locked off as I can. So anyway, I denied it. I said, no. Why? So it turned out that the next door neighbour's child, he was also doing stuff with this kid as well. So, but this kid was a little bit older than me. And he was kind of playing off my uncle with this girl, and he was like, you know, getting really into my uncle's head. And my uncle couldn't cope with that anymore. So he went to the police station. Like, he was pissed up, he was blazed out, and he went and handed himself in at the police station for what he'd done to the next door kid.
Yeah.
Never said anything about me. So that's where the conversation come from with my mum, asking me if he's ever done anything to me.
Yeah.
So the next day I thought about it, went to school, and I thought about it, and I come back, and then when she was due to go back to the bus to go back to work, I asked if I could walk her back to the bus stop, and then that's when I told her. And I told her everything that he'd done. And then she didn't go work that day. Instantly, obviously, phoned the police. And then I had to get interviewed by a load of coppers, male coppers at that, bearing in mind of what's just happened to me with a man. Yeah. I'm now having to sit in front of other men and say wrong stuff that had happened to me, which was embarrassing. It's like...
to say it out loud.
Exactly, it was horrible, man. It was. It's not something that is easy to come out with. Never mind, like, obviously, things happen to women and stuff, and they have to do the same thing. It's not nice. It's not something that you can just flow off your tongue and you know what I'm saying? So that is where my behaviour switched. As soon as it had come out, obviously I had a lot that had come off my chest from then. So Ashley got a beating of his life.
Yeah.
So I'd gone back to school, and he'd done his little bully tactic and banging me in the arm and stuff and pulling my hair outside the music, because they used to have like these outside classrooms, makeshift like classrooms, and he was doing it outside there. So I'd had enough on that point, and I battered him. It took like about 6-7 teachers to get me off him. I went nuts.
Yeah, no, naturally, bro. That's crazy, man. I just kind of want to stick on that just for a second.
Yeah.
You know, did you ever see him again? Like, because obviously,
yeah.
What, when he came out of prison or?
Yeah.
So talk me through that.
Right. So anyway, he didn't go through my charge. My charge got dropped.
He got dropped.
So yeah, they didn't believe me. So the police and all this, because like I said before, when I'm sat in a room with all these guys and I'm in front of cameras like I am now, and I'm answering all these questions, I had like some nervous giggle going on.
Yeah.
I was nervous as hell. So I was doing some nervous giggle. I was looking at my mum when they asked me another question, and it was just awkward as hell. Yeah. So when it was time to go to court,
and you're not even, and as well on top of that, as a young kid as well, you know, you're only a teenager. You're not really, not that, I don't think you really process what was really happening. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you knew what was happening, but I don't you know, I'm not talking for you, but I could just imagine, like, you know, you're in a room full of police officers, your mum's there as well, and you're having to describe certain things. Bro, that just must be painful, man. And I could imagine you act out in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what I was doing. The whole situation was just pure confusing. Like, I didn't know who I were anyway at that point. Like, it made you question a lot of stuff. Like, what's happening to me? Does that mean I like men or something? So you're questioning yourself massively, and it's like, obviously I don't, but it's like back at that, and it's happening to me at that age. It's like I'm questioning. I was just questioning so much stuff. So yeah, it got dropped. So obviously it got dropped. I went through all that for nothing. So that made me really angry at that point.
Of course.
And then I was angry not just at the point of where the whole case had got dropped for me. He still got 4 years for the other kid. And obviously, I think they found like 37 black bags of homegrown weed or stuff in his loft. So he'd obviously got like a bit of charge on for that as well. And then, what
was he at in 2?
I think it was like 2.5. That was back. I think back then, like the 4 year stretch was like anything 4 and over was a parole sentence.
Oh, so you had to get.
I think he did like 2-3 or 2-4 or something like that.
That is disgusting. Bro.
Yeah,
like, you know.
But at this point. So obviously we've discussed the stabbings and stuff like that. Obviously not the stabbing of me, but I was like, obviously my behaviour then just went like erratic.
Yeah.
So I started going into like this youth centre, and this youth centre I was always wrapped around the older kids.
Yeah.
The older kids always having the expensive drinks, the cans of Cokes, the Walkers and stuff like that. I couldn't have the money to pay for that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like drinking. Oh, do you want to kind of go? Yeah, sweet. Like, so obviously, come sit down with us, bro. Like, so I'm sitting down. Like, obviously, I'm starting to get wrapped up now.
Yeah.
I want to be with the older lads. I want to have some money in my pocket, and that's how it kind of I slowly started to drift into. Then I was out on the road more than I was at home. But a coach in a boxing club that was inside the youth club had noticed little old me being around these older lads.
Yeah.
That he knew what they was up to. Like, obviously, we all knew who they were. I knew who they were, and everyone wanted to chill with them, you know?
Yeah.
Because they was respected boys on the estate. So, but the coach had saw what was going on, so he enticed me into the boxing club.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, boxing? Like, I kick people in the shin and run away. Like, Well, it's like, we're talking about boxing. Like, I can't do no boxing. But he pulled me in and he said, look, come and train for a bit for free and see how you like it. So that's what I did. So I got involved in the boxing, and it actually turned out I was really good.
Yeah.
So I channeled the anger that I had for everything into that. So I was, the sparring, the bag work. Like, it was all just channeled into the boxing, and I was stealing money in the end because in the end, obviously, I had to start paying, and I was stealing money from my mum's purse to pay for the sessions. Back then, I think like for an hour and a half, it was like £1.50 or something. Not much, but we didn't have no money back them days, so the £1.50 was a lot of cash for our family anyway. So I was doing this. So about like 6 months, seven months had gone by, and there was a little tournament coming up. But obviously, you got to have parental signatures on the paper for you to be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
That was when I started getting a little bit freaked out, because obviously my parents are now going to find out that I've been, number one, I'm doing the boxing, which I was never really allowed to do anything anyway. And number two, I've been stealing money to do it.
Yeah. So I was just sorry to cut you. What did they think he was doing? Like,
they never questioned what I was doing. This is why I got away with so many things like throughout my life, because I was just left to my own devices.
Okay.
But when it comes to something like that, they will then find out. Just like truanting from school for 3 months, and then that one day you get captured for the whole 3 months.
Yeah.
It was just one of them situations. So I've got away with doing it for so long. Now something's going to happen with it. I'm going to get caught for the whole 7 months that I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So it was just one of them ones. But he made the phone call for me. He said, don't worry, leave it with me. What's your house number? Because we had a house number then. He's like, what's the house number? I'll phone him and I'll speak to them. And I freaked out. Like, obviously, I've gone to school the next day. I'm thinking, oh my God, he's going to phone up my parents. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get a good ID in.
Yeah.
And he invited them down to watch me spar. Come down, watch me spar. They was quite surprised with what they saw.
Yeah.
I was good. I liked the sparring that I'd done. I was quick and I was good with my feet.
Yeah.
And they signed the paperwork for the tournament, and then they come and watch the tournament, and I won it.
Did you win it?
Yeah. So I won the first tournament. So I then got a liking to it, and I just thought, yeah, sweet, I can do this boxing thing. And then I started enjoying punching people in the face.
Yeah.
So it was something I liked then.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, man. Yeah, but I would then start missing my training sessions. I was with the kids. I was with the older boys.
Yeah.
So if there was something going on, I was swerving out, and I was with these boys, and you know, I don't know, nicking cars or something. And thought that was exciting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it swerved me out. But I had a couple more tournaments.
Did you have a point where you had like maybe a conscious decision in your head, like on which path to choose? Because like I kind of had a similar thing. Yeah, I was weightlifting. I know I don't look like it, but I used to weightlift when I was younger, and I had like the same thing, like the coach just kind of, and it was £1. It was about £1.50 as well to do this. And the coach one day said, look, you can come in and do it for free, but you have to do this weightlifting. And I was winning every competition and everything like that. And then, you know, one day, like I qualified for Olympics, everything.
Wow.
Like, yeah. And then one day I was at a party, my mate got stabbed in the neck, and then the coach, I was meant to be on the coach like 5 o'clock that morning, and I felt like I was gonna let the coach down, and I just didn't. But I did, and then I just never went back there again, out of shame, kind of thing. In a nutshell, yeah. But I do remember thinking to myself, is this the path I want to do? Is there even money? Is there a future in weightlifting, kind of thing? Like, did you have that conversation with yourself, or was you just like doing what you wanted to, like just doing what you was?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It was. Do you know, like you know, when you have like a novelty, it was like the novelty of the boxing had wore off.
Yeah.
And I was bored at that point, because, like I said, I'd been in a couple more tournaments after that. And the third tournament that I was in, I only came second.
Yeah.
I got knocked out. Some mixed race kid like caught me with a good one, and I was out.
Yeah.
And I think that knocked my confidence a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I was doing so well. So the novelty around the boxing wore out for me, and then my novelty then came with going out, doing more stuff that was gonna like reach my adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
And that was stuff I was doing on the streets. That was pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
I loved every minute of it at the time, even though obviously you look back now and you think, what a knob.
Yeah.
But at the time,
gave you life.
yeah, it was fun. I had jokes. Like we was all just doing some mad stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, it's crazy. Like some of the stuff we was doing was mad.
Yeah.
But again, obviously, no one knew what I was getting up to. I was just doing some crazy things with no one even knowing. So I was getting away with so much stuff. Every time we came close to getting caught by feds, we was always on our toes. Like it was always on your toes and always on the watch all the time.
Yeah.
That gave you the bigger rush because you was always getting away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like it is always with feds anyways, cat and mouse game, isn't it? So it's just like one day they're lucky, they catch you.
Yeah.
So I think Rose just chose me, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then when they chose me, I enjoyed it.
No, I can hear you there, because a lot of people will say, you know, you had a choice, but bro, like, you know, with your story anyways, you didn't have a chance, man. Like, with what you went through mentally, you know, if you think about it, you know what I mean? I don't think, because you could have carried on boxing. I guess that was the choice. But, you know, the way you was probably wired because of the traumas that you've gone through, and not just like the major trauma, but like, you know, the other things, you know, growing up. You're saying you're remembering things from when you're 2 years old and that. So yeah, like
the thing is, when it was looked at, like, because my behaviour was escalating, it was getting really bad. Obviously, I got expelled from school. I'd squirted acid on someone.
Word.
Wasn't even a purpose thing. It was an accident. But it was just me being stupid in science, and we was doing these things with test tubes and stuff, and I was just being a knob. And I squirted acid on someone. That was the game changer for school. That was me gone straight away. Police at my door and everything for that. And then,
did you get arrested?
No, they came to my house and spoke to me about it.
Yeah.
It was a genuine accident. Like it wasn't intentional for me to be squirting acid on someone. Like we used to do these things with Bunsen burners and that. And that we I don't know what these things are called, but you squirt them up in it. And I weren't even looking because I was chatting at the time, and I was always a clown in class anyway. And I've like put my arm back and I've looked. I've managed to get it in one of the tubes, but the tube, it was the wrong one. It wasn't the water or the saline thing. It was the acid one. That we were supposed to be mixing to work with the Bunsen burner, and I'd squirted it up the back of somebody, and it didn't go down too well, put it that way.
Yeah.
So like that was it. I was out of school instantly from that point. So bearing in mind then I'm not in education now. So if I'm not in education now, what am I going to do?
Yeah, you're just on the roads with your friends.
I was on the roads again, yeah. So I was out. My parents was working anyway. So I was like left at home, supposed to be doing the chores of the house, waiting for my little brother and sister to finish school, and I'd be out. And then when I knew that it was due to the time for parents getting back, I'd make sure I'm indoors quickly, run around the house quick and tidy it up, and then just make out I've been out at home all day, and I haven't, do you know what I mean? So I'd literally been out doing crazy things that they don't know about. But yeah, it was, But the thing why, like, because my behaviour was so bad, they put me into behaviour therapy. It weren't even behaviour therapy I needed. And the woman that I was sat in front of was a dick. Like, I didn't like her. She was very strange. The way that she used to speak to me was quite disrespectful. And they was mainly like looking at the behaviour that I was having, but not all the stuff that had actually gone on previous. Like, all this stuff was never mentioned.
And you know, off the back of that, like that is why I do these podcasts, because it's like, you know, a lot of people just be like, oh, you know, prisoners or people that commit crime in their life, oh, they're just scumbags, or they don't deserve the air that you're breathing and all this stuff. But no one really thinks about what that person has actually gone through for them to be like that. Do you know, not everyone had that, you know, that nice life.
There's always a story behind everybody. Always. Like
someone working in behavior as a behavior therapy, like you said, should be exploring that, you know.
They're professional. They should pick that shit up. But they don't. And that's what they was just concentrating on my bad behaviour. And that's then where everything kind of stuck with that. There was never no positives for anything that I was doing. It was always the negatives that was always picked out. So whenever you're doing something good anyway, what's the fucking point? Because no one was noticing anyway. So I'll just continue being a dick. And that's what I was doing. I jarred her off straight away. Like, I didn't want to work with her. I think I lasted about 2 months with her. And then I got carted off to Sheffield, because we ended up buying a pub in Sheffield. And we was up there for a little while. And I caused chaos up there as well. There was an incident with, like, you know, my parents had made something private for themselves that a friend of mine had stolen. And where he'd stolen this, he ended up showing it to a few other people in the flats up in Netherthorpe in Sheffield, and obviously my parents got quite embarrassed by that. I generally had nothing to do with it, but I had the beating of my life. But obviously, taking the responsibility of having him in the pub at the time anyway, he'd stolen this video, so it looked like that I'd handed that over when I would never have done that. Do you know what I mean? And we ended up having to leave Sheffield and come back. I think I moved house from like the age of 2 up until like 15. Probably a good, like, nearly 20 times or something. I've moved to loads of different houses. You know, we had like one house. Our house got burgled. It was in like the newspaper because the burglars even had the cheek to make a bowl of Weetabix.
No way.
Munched Weetabix in my house.
No.
Yeah. So that made the newspaper. So when they tried to take off, like back in them days, you had like the separates and you had like the turntable on the top and that. So where they've obviously carried this off, the turntable fell off. So it just fell off and it hit the floor, and obviously my stepdad would have heard it. He'd come down, but there's like 2 empty bowls of like Weetabix on the side.
2 empty bowls?
Yeah. So they ate Weetabix in my house. Like,
the fuck?
That is ruthless, isn't it?
Yeah, that is ruthless. So that is,
so obviously burglaries happen. Obviously my mum don't feel comfortable there anymore. So like it's time to leave. Like we need to move to another house. Obviously we moved to another house. So it was like that continually. And then...
so you never really had much stability?
No, not really. Nah,
not at all.
I don't think so. Look, I can never always just blame all my parents and stuff for my ways, and you know, I can't because that would be irresponsible for me. But it's like there are certain different things. Like you got, like when you got kids of your own, you start pinpointing and picking things out with your kids. You know, like if your kid's being bullied, you know something's wrong with your kid, so you're picking out what's going on. You know what I mean? You know that, and none of this stuff was noticed with me. It was kind of like brushed off and they was obviously always too busy with their own lifestyle to even pick up on what's going on with the kids. And that's obviously where I've slipped through the net then.
Yeah, but that's a skill though, I have to say, like the fact that you can pick up these things where obviously your parents wouldn't. And I guess that comes with experience. Obviously, you've gone through it, so you can notice certain things with your own kids,
as well as other kids I work with as well. I pick things out straight away.
Yeah,
I'm quite quick off the mark with it.
That is a skill, you know, and that's something to be like obviously proud of. What was? Do you remember the first time you got arrested?
Yeah, I got arrested for a robbery and a fray.
Yeah.
And I was 14.
14.
So back in the day, where I come from, where like we used to have like when the Nike TN hats when they came out, and we was running through town like robbing them off people's heads and just chipping, just like we would walk past them and off we'd go with these hats.
Yeah.
Or we'd wait for people to come out the locals like trainer shop like JD and stuff, look at what they bought. And then we'd just like go them around the corner and we'd jack them for their stuff. Yeah. Take their new trainers, whether they was too big for us or not, like kickers or whatever they was in back in the day.
Yeah.
And we used to rob people for their kickers and stuff and go and sell them. If they was like size 8 or something, we'd sell them to like an adult or something just for a quick buck. And probably half the time, like we'd use the money to go on Goose Fair or something, which like we have a fair in Nottingham called Goose Fair. Like it's on every October, and we always used to love going down there.
Yeah, like an event.
Yeah, we'd love it. And so there was this kid this one day. I was with a pal of mine, and he was someone that we was looking for. He was like victim. He's like, you know, we was bullies as well. You can say bullies, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he looked like a bit of a victim. So we pulled him up on a corner. Back then it was like jump up and down, so we could hear the jingling.
Yeah. I remember that. Actually.
Yeah. That's so embarrassing as well, making someone jump up and down. In the street, like.
It's the humiliation as well, isn't it?
So it was like telling him to jump up and down. Like, oh no, I ain't got no money. We'll jump up and down. Like, and as he's jumping up and down, we're like patting him on the pockets and stuff. Obviously, we didn't hear anything, but he had like a wallet in his pocket, and he had a brand new cap on as well. So we ended up taking his wallet off of him and his hat. But then I had to go one extra, and I gave him a bit of a couple of punches there and there as well. Yeah. Then I got a little bit angry, and there was some railings, and I rammed his head off the railings. I don't know, I lost it. Yeah. So for unbeknown to me, I didn't know he even knew who I were. But bearing in mind, my face is on the street all the time. Yeah. So obviously people come across and people hear stories, people's names and stuff like that.
You're getting known in the
He knew who I were, which was a bit of a bummer for me, because then the police come through my door like the next day, 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And they come and took me. Obviously, my parents. Then obviously, this is what I say. Like, you can do all this. This is your parents don't even know what you're doing until that one day. And that was the day. Like, they come around 5 o'clock in the morning, door come off, and they nicked me in front of my parents for robbery and a fray. Put me in the police station. That was the first time I've been in the cells.
What was going through your head?
Hours.
What was going through your head, if you remember?
I was flapping it because I wasn't. Do you know what it was? I wasn't actually flapping it so much about being in the police station. I was flapping it about my dad.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's my dad that it was the wrath of my dad, not even the police. I didn't really care about that. It was because I knew that I was going to get a proper good hiding. Yeah. And my stepdad had some man hands, like, and they was going to hurt. You know what I mean? I knew what was coming. So I was thinking, oh my God, like, there was like, an adult obviously needs to be, and I thought, my mum's going to be the one in my interview, because I want my mum, because my mum was a little bit softer. And I was left in the police cells like all day. I think for like 5 o'clock, I didn't get interviewed till about 7:30 at night. Yeah. So I've been in there all day, like worrying, like what's going on, like what's going to happen. So I got, in the end, I got like, I think it was like 400 or 500 hours community service. And I had to pay compensation to the kid. Yeah. It was like something like £100 or something. Yeah. But obviously I didn't have to pay it. My parents paid it. Do you know what I mean? So I did all the community service. But when I was doing the community service, it wasn't like what it is these days, where you're wearing some high-vis and you're going on a beach picking up like litter or wiping the spray paint off of walls and stuff. We was literally doing sporty stuff. Oh. So we was in like a gym, and like picking up like them old brown benches that you used to have at school, and we'd be picking them up and then putting them over to this shoulder and then that shoulder, and then we'd be jumping backwards and forwards, jumping off, and then we'd be like playing basketball, and that was my community service.
That sounds lit.
So it does. This is my point. So do you think like obviously doing community service like that, is that going to like change my behaviour? Yeah. Like, that was fun. Like I was having fun doing that. I met a few good pals there as well. Like, so obviously now it's it's a breeding ground for further criminals to like link in with each other. That's what we did. So then we've obviously got another couple added to the list of friends. Do you know what I mean? So that was my first time.
So talk me through obviously the main offence, you know, like what led up to it. And
so bearing in mind, like throughout, obviously from like the age of like 17 upwards, I've like altogether, if you're adding in all the sentences that I've been in jail for, it's like about 8.5 years of my life has been in and out of jail. But I had like a third strike crime that I had back in 2003, and I was on remand for it. And the same judge that gave me a 4, he was the next judge for this third strike, so I knew I was going to get slammed. It was like Judge Brown. He said go down for Brown. I was like,
go down for Brown. Back then, 3 strikes wasn't an IPP.
No, not then. Not in the early 2000s.
Was that early 2000s? Yeah. Sorry.
So like it was 3 strikes and like it's like a 7 and above.
Yeah.
So I was then on remand, and this was like a crime that I took the rap for something else, like for someone else. And then whilst I was in, because I was burning like loads of drugs as well. I was off my nut all the time, and I had an opportunity to do a rehabilitation. Because I got remanded, I lost the spot that I was supposed to go to, and without me knowing, like I had my solicitor, I had this counsellor woman. They was fighting a corner for me whilst I was in court, like whilst I was in jail on remand, to get me another placement in a rehab. But I didn't know. So when I'd gone up for sentencing, the judge obviously told me to stand, and he was like, he was going to give me 7.5 years today, and thankfully the people behind you, they've had your back in the whole time that you've been away, and so today I'm sentencing you to rehabilitation that you must adhere to for 3 months minimum. If you come back in front of me within that time, I will give you the sentence I was going to give you today. And they carted me off down south with an ASBO. So therefore, I've gone down south, done the rehabilitation. I lasted about 8.5 months in there. It was a bit of a breeze. I thought it would be a breeze. I thought, yeah, sweet, I'll swerve the jail for a bit. Like 7.5 years, that's a bit of a stretch. So I'll go and do the rehab. So
of course,
yeah.
That's the much easier.
But it didn't work out in that way, because when I'd got down there, like when you're in rehab, you have to talk about all this stuff that I'm talking about now. And obviously that was new and fresh for me. So I'm thinking, oh my God, like I ain't talking about none of this stuff. How am I going to get out of this? Yeah. So I tried to put up with it for a little while, and it weren't working. I couldn't avoid it. I had to talk about it. So I was kicking off. There was an occasion that some geezer had sent something to me and told me that like a couple of my stories was lies, and he was my roommate at the time. So I waited until he was asleep, banged the pillow over the top of him and whacked him up with a broomstick. Yeah. Like, why are you saying stuff like that for? Like, you don't know who I am. Don't be saying this stuff. You're sharing a room with me. So, like, when you're asleep, I'm going to do... And I did it when he was asleep. Some people might say, well, why did you do it? Why didn't you do it when he was awake? Well, like, you know, it's more of a shock, innit? Bang a pillow on him and whack him up with a broomstick. So...
But, yeah, sorry, just to get a bit more details on that, Carl. When you said rehab, I thought that was just some place where you might have had to go, like, you know, go for your rehab kind of thing. But you're saying you had to stay in an establishment and do your rehab. Yeah. And then what you had to do, how long you said, was it 3?
It was a 9-month program. Yeah. So I got a 9-month program in there.
But you had to be living in this place for 9 months.
Well, 9 months you can live in there for, but the judge had ordered me for minimum of 3. So you get like 3, 6, 9. So you get a 3-month program, then they can upgrade it to 6-month program. If you need a bit longer, they'll upgrade it to 9. But they gave me 9 straight, so I had the funding for all 9 months. But the judge said I had to stay there for 3. Yeah. So I thought that would be a breeze. 3 months straight. I've just basically done like 14 months on my man. So I just thought that would be perfectly fine for me, easy. Yeah. But it wasn't easy. It was really difficult. Yeah. I lost the plot. I was angry as hell in there. People grouping me for some stupid stuff and like putting my name in boxes and that, like snitching on me for that, for loads of mad stuff. I was making like makeshift weights and stuff and hiding them under my bed. And they, like in rehab, they class these things as like cross addiction and stuff, and you're not allowed to have it. So I had people snitching on me, telling me I've got all these fucking weights and stuff under my bed. I was thinking, how minor is that? Why are you snitching on me for fucking weights under my bed? Yeah. Like, I was trying to be fresh. My arms was pumped. I was doing all right. Do you know what I mean? I was eating loads of food and that. So I come out of there anyway. Like that was done. And I sorted myself out at that point. I got my head straight. Didn't want to really get involved in crime at that point. I'd moved to a different area. It was a seaside town by the sea. Summer's nice, etc. And then my son came along, and then after he came along, and then my daughter, she came along, his sister, and at that point my granddad was dying of Alzheimer's, so he was really unwell. And I was driving, I was going up and down.
Were you close to your granddad?
Yeah. He was a good man, man. We always used to have like jokes and stuff. Obviously, I was known as like obviously oldies back in the day. That there's like a word they used to use, like yobbo. And my granddad always used to call me a yobbo or a villain. And oh, what do you want, you yobbo? Like, kind of like, what do you want now? Yeah. But we always had a really good relationship because, like, obviously back when I was a kid, because my mum was so young when she had me, my uncle John was going to adopt me.
Okay.
I had a few uncles, like he was going to adopt me, but my granddad didn't allow it. He was like, no, like you can keep him. We'll help you look after him. So that's how I had a good relationship with both my grandparents. So he was obviously like really ill with Alzheimer's. And I was going up and down to Nottingham, helping my mum and my auntie look after my granddad. And my auntie would go to Turkey because she was married to some Turkish geezer. And I'd go and stay with my mum for a couple of weeks, look after my granddad. You know, do what he did to me as a kid, man. Like, wipe his ass, he wipe mine. You know what I mean? Just do the same thing back. And then I got a bit of a, how can I put it? Like, I got a bit of a liking to that kind of thing. I thought, well, I could do this to other old people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This seems like a good job that I can get involved in.
You enjoyed helping?
Yeah, definitely. It was rewarding.
Yeah.
You know, it was really rewarding. And because I had the criminal record that I had, I never thought I'd ever be able to get a job like that. When I obviously was come out of the rehab and I was in Bexhill, I had a couple of tear-ups. And I got done for like a battery ×2 or something. And these coppers then obviously when I got nicked, they saw my depths, they saw my rap sheet, and they'd obviously thought like, fuck me, like we've got someone down here that we didn't even know, like that on the streets. We're gonna have to keep an eye on him. And they was up my arse all the time. Yeah. Pulling me over in my car, telling me that I ain't got insurance, and you know, just do the usual stuff. Do you know what I mean? And obviously they're doing their job. That's cool. Like, but I was generally
they was on you though.
I was law abiding that time. I wasn't doing no offences or nothing. Yeah, I had a couple of tear-ups, but the tear-up that I actually had, it was their fault in the first place. I was out for a kebab. I weren't even drinking. Yeah. And they barged me over. I fell on my arse and I knocked them out. Yeah. So it was just, yeah. So it went like, So anyway, so I applied for this job as a carer. Yeah. And I was obviously honest, like, yeah, I've been in jail, you know, but they said that we're open to be letting people have second chances and stuff. Thanks for your honesty on that. But because I've been in and out of jail, I've been homeless and I've been all over the place, like the criminal record check was taking some time to come back, but they employed me without that coming back.
Oh, yeah.
So I was employed for like 9 months without even a DBS. Yeah. Which on their part, that's bad times for you. Yeah. But like, obviously, I weren't no like Jimmy Savile or anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was all right. I was good at my job, and I really enjoyed that job. It was probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. And I was just waiting up for this one call that I had, and the police officer that had nicked me previously, that was always stinging me. He pulled up in his car and I spotted him and I just thought, I can't even be asked to even talk to you. So I went to get back in my car. He called me over. How did you get a job like that? He saw obviously the logo on my T-shirt and I was like, well, I've changed, you know. Like, and he was like, nah, leopards don't change spots, bro. Like,
is that how he's dealing with you?
Yeah. He was proper knobby, like, but obviously not. Like, I get on with this geezer now. Yeah. Like, a long time's gone on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and obviously, I can cover that, like, when I talk about the positives of what I do now. But, and he went into my place of work. And he went into my place of work. He asked to see my application form. The people that was the managers at the time, they got a little bit wary, like, why are the feds coming in looking, like, wanting to see application forms? And then the week after, I got sacked. Word. Yeah. So at that point, I'd lived in a house that was costing a couple of £100 more a month than what it was before I was working. I had like a finance car. I just had a daughter. She was like 3 months old. Yeah. So I need money quick. Yeah. So like, what am I going to do now? And then that's where the last offence that I'd done had come into the game.
So what did you end up doing to get that money?
So what happened? I was out on a night out, and I was doing little dabbly bits anyway. At this point, I'd moved over to Hastings, and I got involved in just shooting a little bit of Charlie and that. And I was on a night out in town, and this kiddie had a bit of a scrap with this guy. He got jumped as well by a couple of guys, but I jumped. I didn't even know who the kid was. I just used to love jumping in from time to time.
Yeah, gets that.
So I jumped in, and I helped this kiddie out, and it turned out he was from Hackney. Well, he was from Islington, but he was working with a couple of boys from Hackney, and he was obviously serving the hard drugs. So he, a couple of days later, he said, "Oh, do you want a bit of work and that?" And I didn't obviously know what he was doing at the time. This is when I found out. I was like, yeah, I'm up for a bit of work, thinking a bit of labouring or something, like a bricklayer or something like that. Yeah. And then he told me, he was like, yeah, do you know what I mean? You probably like get like £1,000 every pack that you get realised you've got £1,000. Like, what? I was like, sweet. I said, this sounds fucking cushy. I was like, yeah, all right, then fuck it, because I needed the cash ASAP.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I got involved with serving the beer and the white.
In Hastings.
Yeah. And it went all right for about a year.
For a year?
Yeah, I got away with it for about a year, and then I ended up, I was getting sloppy. So I was like setting Weatherspoons and that, pissed up, just rolling shots across to like people coming in, my battery dying, being like just stupid, like. Yeah. So, but yeah, I at the time I
was there was there an operation going on, or feds watching you? Yeah?
Which I didn't know about, and it turned out that the operation weren't even on me.
Was it on the big man?
Yeah, so we rented out like a bungalow, and it was on like a street, real quiet street. It was like a neighbourhood watch area. All the old bodies was always at the curtains and stuff. And we always used to say to the boys and that, like, listen, bro, don't come down at stupid times of night, like with hoods and ballies and all that. It's not, it's bait. Like you're gonna get us raided. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And they turn up all the time. Like, oh, we're just passing. We thought we'd just come in for like, why are you doing this? Like, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, bro. So anyway, this was all going on, and then. Like I say, I've gone out and I'm out for most of the day. Turned the line off for a couple of hours. I had cash anyway, so I'd had a few drinks with my mates, and then I was running out of cash. So I thought, well, I need to turn it on. These were the BlackBerry days, so I need to turn my phone back on. But my battery, I didn't have the charger. Yeah. So one kid that I was with, he weren't drinking. So I was like, mate, can you give me a lift up to the spot so I can get my charger? I need to turn it on because my man's going to phone about 7:30, and he's going to want 9 of each. Yeah. That's cool for me. That's enough money now for me to carry on for the rest of the night. Yeah. So he's took me back to the house. And I've got my charger. Whilst I'm in the house, unbeknown to me, there's a car that had pulled up alongside the car that I was in with 4 feds in it. Yeah. Or 4 people in it, which he told me he didn't even know they was feds. I would have known instantly. Yeah. But he didn't know because he weren't. Was
it undercover?
Undercover, yeah. So there was 3 blokes and 1 woman. Yeah. And you could tell them a mile away. Yeah, of course. I mean? Yeah. So I've got back in the car thinking nothing of it. I blazed weed as well then. So I'd sorted out for me to go and get an 8th quickly. And as I've gone down onto the seafront, and then all of a sudden, like, armed police literally swarmed the car. Literally smashed up the window, police, get out the car. So they've like obviously got me out the car, like make sure you put your hands where you can see them and all that shit. I fucking flapped it. Yeah. I was like, what's going on there?
Did you think he was getting robbed?
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. Like, and all these lights started coming from nowhere, and then my pal that was there, standing there, obviously he's like stood in the doorway waiting for me. And he's obviously like shot back into the doorway because I was going to buy weed off of him. So he contacted my other pal, and he was like, what the fuck is your boy into, bro? He's just got like all armed, just got him on the seafront and that. So and at that time, I had like 18 and 3 in my pocket. Yeah. And yeah, so obviously I couldn't even get out of that situation. It was there. I couldn't even get rid of it. It was there. Yeah. So I then so they was going to arrest the other 2 boys that I was with, but they had nothing on them. It had nothing to do with them. They was just in the car. So they searched them on the roadside. They obviously didn't have anything on them. But I overheard on the radio that it was planning on raiding the house. Yeah. But we had quite a bit in the house at the time. It was like all stashed wherever, do you know what I mean? And I said to my pal Richard, I was like, go back to the house. Yeah. Like, you need to go back because my man Stephen was still there. Yeah. And so he's obviously, when I've got nicked and taken to the station, he's jumped back in the car and shot back up like, Carl's got nicked. So obviously they've got everything together and got out of the house. So by the time it's come to the morning, I've gone back to the house. Obviously, I've got to get changed into my other clothes, and the door is literally demolished. Like, they've literally ransacked the whole house. So they was like, at that time as well, there was little baggies of like sniff. I had steroids and that in there, and bits of Valium and stuff, like loads of different mad stuff.
Yeah.
And they put me in the newspaper, and I was pissed because they got my age wrong. So I phoned them up and was like, "You've got my age wrong. You put me down as like 32. I'm 30 years old." Do you know what I mean? Like, and they was like, "Are you for real?" Like, and I'm like, "Yeah." Do you know, I was a bit of a dickhead back then, but yeah, and that's how that charge come about. So I was on like, obviously I was going no comment all the way through. They put me down as like the main guy because it was a county line. So they was putting me down as the main guy. My last name, obviously I can't say too much, but like. They just put, and I was thinking, what? Like, it ain't my line. Do you know what I mean? I'm just working on the line. Yeah. So obviously following through, I've still got all the Crown prosecution stuff in my house that says like, oh yeah, no comment. Oh, what are you talking about with that? No, I got the reason why I had that money in because I was working and I was doing that thing. Do you know what I mean? So like, so anyway, so the guy come out and he was like, well, like you might as well just cough it. We have actually got you. And I said, what, cough it now and then go jail early? I was like, you might as well just do your jobs. Let's just continue with this for a few months.
Oh, did you get bail?
Yeah, I got bail, yeah. It's only like 18 and 3 or something. It wasn't like I got caught with a fucking key or something, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just and, a few raps.
Yeah, so I just kept on going, no comment. And then when I'd gone back for my next interview, they'd obviously pulled up all my BBM messages and stuff that was coming from on the BlackBerry. So it equivalated to quite a lot of cash. I think it was like about 70 odd grand or something. Yeah. And then at that point, obviously...
And did they still have you down as leading role at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that stopped by the time, obviously, CPS had done all the paperwork and all that. They basically just they declassified me down to, like, street dealer.
Okay,
So it weren't really, like, I was now known as the big guy, which I'm glad anyway, because I'd have been birded off.
Yeah, what did you get?
3.
You got 3 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's decent, you know, out a year and a half.
Yeah.
But would you say this? So, would you say that was the sentence that? Because I know you had your kids at the time as well. Yeah.
So it was a little bit different. I had things outside, so it weren't like before, like going to jail. Like going to jail was just one of them things. I just dealt with it whilst I was there, and then got out, and then just carried on after a couple of months.
So yeah, that's what I want to ask then, because you know, I've been going to prison for, you know, for the past 10 years or whatever, and never had no kids though. But now that I've got 2 now, and just like you did,
yeah,
I think if I was to go to jail now, that could break me. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd feel like, you know, my kids, you know. How did you feel going in, knowing because you had custody of your kids? Or?
Yeah. I wasn't with the baby mum at the time then, because we broke up in like 2010.
Oh, so they would have been with your baby mum.
But I still saw them all the time.
Okay, yeah. So that's maybe a little bit different, but same way. How did you feel going to prison? You know, knowing that, you know, you've got the 2 kids and that. What went through your head?
It was I don't know. When it first happened, because I knew I was going down. Yeah. I knew 100% I was going down, so I was very prepared to go down. And when I got in, it didn't hit me for the first few days. Yeah. Because obviously you go in, you get used to the routine. Time flies when you're first in. For the first 7 days, it goes really quick. You're in induction and all that shit. Do you know what I mean? So you're getting into the routine. So I didn't really have much time to think. It was like, because I got sentenced on, it was a Tuesday. So by the time it got to the weekends, you know, weekends are dead. Yeah. Like bang up, like it's quite a lot, especially on a Sunday. A Saturday's like you're out until like what, 2 o'clock, then you're banged up for the rest of the day. Yeah. So, or 4 o'clock, depending on what jail you're in. And that's when then obviously I had more time to think. So you're not able to speak to your kids when you feel like it, and it's you're now thinking about the stuff that you've actually got outside. Because bearing in mind, they didn't know where I were. And it was kept a secret for ages that, like, Daddy was at work. That's how we kept it. Yeah. And it always, or even up to the point where they come and did it, because I managed to get a family day visit because I got enhanced and stuff. So they come and did a family day visit. And even then, it was still Daddy is at work. So
how old was that at the time? And for those that don't know, family days, like, I don't know what it was for you, but it's like a 5-hour visit, isn't it?
It's like a whole day thing. So
yeah.
and you obviously have to be sometimes a good prisoner to get them.
Yeah.
And not like you're obviously sucking screws' asses, but you don't need to
you
can be a good prisoner without sucking asses. You're just under the radar. So bearing in mind, I think he was about 7 or 8, something like that. My daughter was a little bit younger. So obviously still having it for that whole day. But even still, I didn't even have it for the whole day because there was drama with her getting to where I work because I was in Surrey. So I was in Coldingley at the time.
Yeah.
So, and it's not the easiest place to get to, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and obviously for someone like her as well, weren't driving, this was all trains and stuff like that, it was a bit of a mish.
Yeah.
So I was sat there for a good couple of hours watching everybody else with their families and their kids, and every time the door goes, it's like
you're just looking at it.
And there's no one even there, and I was just like, every time my heart sunk every time.
Bro, that is the worst.
Yeah.
Especially, I don't know if you've been ghosted before, bro, but that is the worst.
No, I've never been ghosted.
No.
I thought that was the day I was going to get ghosted.
Yeah.
But obviously obviously it wasn't my missus. I was just wanting to see my kids.
Yeah.
So that would have broke me, that.
Yeah.
And it would have been so embarrassing as well, like being in front of everyone else. Everyone's having a proper good time with their kids and stuff, or even with their missus and stuff like that, and you'll just sit there looking like a lemon because no one's even there.
With people offering you like canteen sweets and that.
Yeah, people offering me drinks. There was a geezer who was with his wife and stuff, and she'd gone and bought something from the canteen part, and then she come and placed some stuff down on my table and that. And
probably felt like
nice,
thought you was getting ghosted.
Yeah, I know. Like, look at him there, dickhead. But then they ended up turning up. So I think all in all, I ended up having about 3 hours or something, which is better than nothing. Do you know what I mean? But it was hard. But I got myself a mobile, so when I had a tech in there, it was a bit different. I'd be contacting all the time anyway.
Yeah, speaking all the time.
It was just, and then again, you're just doing cat and mouse with the screws again. So, and this is the time that they're walking around with scanners and that, and they're trying to like take off their shoes and walk with socks so you can't hear them on the landing. You know what I mean?
I know
acting
the
all
ones.
spooky with you. But there was one guy in Coldingley that was a nightmare, mate. If there was a phone on the wing, he's got it. I think his name was Mr. Doe, if I remember rightly. If he's Mr. Doe, it's got to be you, like
Mr. Doe.
Yeah.
There was an officer called Phone Jacker in Loudon Grange, like, because the name speaks for itself. He's called Phone Jacker, bro.
Yeah,
because he would get that phone, and he was just on it, like, mate, I think he used to do overtime just trying to find the phones.
There was a kid that we know, Penfold, actually. He messaged me the other day on TikTok as it goes, and he was like, "Oh my God, is that you? I thought I see you. Like, you're moving mad these days." And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. But he used to have a pad. So his pad was the pad facing down the landing. Yeah. So on the flap, there was all them little holes in the flap. So you can look through the little hole in the flap. So obviously where we're next door, if any screws is just about to come up onto the landing, number one, if you're at the bottom, you can't hear the lock go. Yeah. So they can get onto the wing quite quietly. Yeah. But obviously when everyone's on their phones, Penfold's keeping the watch out of the door, so he'd be letting you know straight away that the screws are on. So straight away, turn off battery out, boom, and just leave it at that for a minute. And then obviously they're coming down and they're doing all this with their little scanner, trying to scan you out,
trying to find it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's great. So obviously having the mobile in there was quite helpful. I know obviously breaking the rules of jail, but there's far worse that goes on in there.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think about phones in jail? And by the way, because I don't know if obviously you haven't been in jail recently, but they've now started to put house phones. Like house phones.
Yeah, I know Rochester's got house phones and that as well.
Yeah, I think they're putting it in every jail now. I know Coldingley is quite a flooded jail. It's always been like that. But how easy is it for a normal person to just come on and get a phone in jail?
I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing for you to have. Yeah, to be fair, it depends what jail you go in, and it depends what kind of a person you are.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking is because I just want to dispel a few myths, because I think people seem to think like, you can just come in and just get a phone.
No,
like it doesn't work like that.
If anything, you'll probably get robbed.
You get robbed, yeah, exactly. Like you can't just get a phone, number one, and then people probably sell it to you and just rob you or whatever.
100%. You get the money transferred anyway. As soon as the money's in, they're not going to give you the phone until the money's transferred. And the minute they're like that, let's say it's a bag, for example, like putting £1,000 in. Because when I was in there, like just for an iPhone, like the shittiest iPhone was £1,000. And that was back in 2013, and I'm guessing the prices have gone way high since
Disgustingly.
then. So you're not. And I say this to kids all the time as well. They're like, "Oh yeah, you get loads of drugs and you get loads of phones in jail." And I look at them and I said, "Listen, bro, like you would never have that." And because obviously you got to look at it as like we're all involved in the same thing. So when you go into jail, 9 times out of 10 you're going to bump into people you know.
Yeah.
So you're already cool already because you know people. But then when you've got people that actually don't know people or they're not that certified, you ain't going to be going into jail and like looking on a phone straight away. It's not going to happen. It's going to be impossible. And the first thing that people do, and this is another thing that other people don't understand, when you're fresh in and you go onto the wing fresh, people are at your door. What you got? You brought anything in with you? And I've seen people kidnapped and held on a bed, ready to have their legs spread, to have that shit pulled out of them.
Spooned in that.
Yes, bruv. And there's no game in that. You don't just thinking that you're gonna roll in and you're just gonna fall onto a mobile phone and a load of weed in your cell.
I've seen people do this and it jars me sometimes, but they're just like, you know, prison's easy. You can get PS4s, you can get phones, drugs, but it's just not like that. You can't get PS4s. You can't just get drugs or you can get drugs like that, of course. But phones and that, there's a small minority of people that would have control over that and would have the phones, you know.
Yeah, even to use that phone, even if you want to use someone's phone, let's say for example you wanted to buy like a gram of weed or something, you're gonna have to use someone's tech to actually bail that in so you can get the money transferred, and you've got no choice to use someone's phone. Even sometimes, even on that, you're not using that phone for free. People are gonna charge you to even use the phone. Do you know what I mean? So nothing really comes for free in jail. Like it's always chargeable. Well, even a fucking biscuit will cost you $2 back.
Double bubble in it.
Exactly. So it's not as simple as what people make out. Like, and I say this all the time to people. Like, you don't underestimate and don't look at just because like you're seeing this on YouTube or you're seeing this stupid program on the TV that's like not even like BBC where they're this new that Sean Bean thing where that's not even jail, bro. That's not the telly. The telly can't actually show you the real reality of jail. Do you know what I mean? Apart from like obviously people like yourself when you're doing the filming and you're recording and speaking with people, that's reality of jail. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, bro. And you know, I feel like people that are doing that, it's like you're not really creating a deterrent for people because people are just thinking, you know what, I do a mad thing, I get birded, and it's calm. I can just get this. I can just get that. It's readily available. But it's just not that clean cut, man. You know.
Do you know what? Like this, like when I went in, like back in the day when I first ever started going, because I started my sentencing when I was going like Glen Parva and that in Leicester. And like we used to have like, and the only time that listeners would ever get called out is if you want to burn. So if you want to burn, you get a listener. You come in, just tell the screws that you're feeling a little bit suicidal, which is it's horrible to say that sometimes you do that, but you do these things, yeah. And then you'll get a listener that will come to your cell. He'll bun up a burn with you. That's got your cigarette craving out of the way, and then he'll plot back out of your cell, and off he goes. Now you've got listeners that are setting you up. So the listener is supposed to be there for someone to help you for it, like through bad times. First time in jail, I'm panicking about jail, go and speak to one of the listeners. The listener will then have a conversation with you, try and befriend you. Have you come in with anything? The listener would know, oh no, you know, I'll make sure you're sweet. You'll have some good food. I'll get you in with servery. The minute that you start opening up and saying that you've come in with something, he's now going to tell my man on the wing that, oh, my man's going to come onto the wing and he told me yesterday that he's brought something in with him. And then you're going to have people at your cell door. Yes, 100%. 100%. They say you can't even trust the listener these days.
So everyone's involved, man.
Everybody, it's like, it fucking pisses me off. Like these people what you're talking about. Like they think that life's so easy in jail. Look, don't get me wrong. Depending on who you are and who you are as a person is depending on how you survive, innit? And I've never really had too many issues in prison. Not that I had nothing I couldn't handle. But not everybody's lucky like that, you know. And some of the things that I've seen, you know, there's a lot of kids out there that worry about getting stabbed and stuff. And I was like, well, you worry about that shit on road. You need to wait. You see when you go to jail because like people are getting knives dropped in, mate. Do you know what I mean? There's weapons that you see on road. You're seeing them in jail.
Of course. Off the back of that, what was the worst incident you've seen in jail?
So I was in Moreland prison. I was in an open jail, And I was serving up for one of the adult jails, for adult prisoner, because in the open jail, it's YY and HMP mixed together. It used to be called Hatfield, but they changed it to Moorland Open in Doncaster.
Yeah. I was going to say, Moorlands isn't that Doncaster? I was about to say that.
Yeah, so it's next door to Lindholm.
Yeah. Lindholm's a sea cat.
Yeah.
So Moorlands, didn't it get changed to HMP Doncaster now, or is that?
No, Doncaster's Donkey Traz. That's a separate jail.
Yeah.
From what my knowledge, anyway.
No, because Doncaster used to be called something else. I'm sure.
The nickname for Doncaster used to be Donkey Traz. All these Yorkshire pods will know that. Like it was Donkey Traz. It was a ruthless jail.
I was in there, bro. It was ruthless.
You?
Yeah, I got security moved up there.
Oh wow.
It was ruthless.
Yorkshire's different.
Yeah,
especially when you're from down south as well.
Yeah, bro. There was open racism. I could tell you that much.
Yeah, man.
And like one of the first days I went into Doncaster, yeah, fucking these kids just bounced onto a wing. Like they're not even from this. I was on induction. They wasn't even from induction. They just bounced on. They just told the screw move out of the way. Came on the wing. And, in normal prisons, you can't come from one wing and just come into the other, and the screw's just gonna let you on. Bro, they came on, stabbed up this youth, and
wow.
just like you know how Doncaster's laid out, just the main, like just the floor area basically.
Yeah.
They stabbed him up and then bounced off the wing. Like Screw didn't do. Screw watched it all, and they just bounced off the wing, and it was just like, it was mad. I was like, how's that just happening? Like like in a normal jail, like first of all, before you even come on the wing, like the alarm would have been pressed. You trying to come on the wing,
definitely.
But you start stabbing up a kid, and then. They just didn't do nothing about it. It was wild, to be honest. I think, Doncaster was probably one of the maddest jails I've been in.
Moorlands had a really bad reputation. Like, bare lifers in there. You got like 18-year-old boys doing 22s and stuff. And so every time, when we was in the open jail, there was always bad stories. Like even people that was like done a bit of their bird in Moorlands and they're now moving to DCAT. And they was put into Hatfield. It was Hatfield, and then it changed to Moorlands Open Jail. So when they went into there, obviously you'd hear more stories. There was a kiddie called Leighton Pennerton. He was in for a murder when he was like 12. If you're still out there, bro, I'm trying to get hold of you for years. He was a unit, mate. Like you touch him, like even the muscles and stuff, you couldn't even. Like, he was solid as a rock. He'd been training since he was 12. So he lifed off for stabbing someone in the chest. But it was an accident as well. Kid was bullying him, but then when I got caught with 16 shots of weed, and back then it was phone cards. So you was like serving up like £2 phone cards. And someone owed me a debt, and it was only like, I think, £6 or something. But instead of paying me the debt on canteen, he snitched on me and said that I was shot in the weed for the adult prisoner. So I worked in the kitchens at the time. So I'm at work in the kitchens. It's like, 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. Security screws have come into the kitchen. And I knew instantly because they was looking at me. So I knew they was coming for me, but I had them in my pocket. I couldn't get rid of them. It was stuck on me. So they come and they took me to the cloakroom. They searched me. They found obviously all the shots and that, and then instantly taken straight to reception. And within an hour, I was on a bus to Moorland Prison, and I'm flapping it on that bus because I've heard some gruesome stories about that place. And I'm thinking, oh my God. And I was taken with this kid from Florida. He was in England, and he'd got locked up for something, and he was coming with me. We ended up getting banged up together on the wing. Didn't really like him that much. He was a bit of he just talked too much. And sometimes I just don't want to hear talking. I just want silence. You know what I mean? But he talked too much. And then I got let out for a shower. So as I've only been in the jail for as they've got me on the wing. I've been on the wing for about an hour. And I've gone into the shower. There was one kiddie that was having a shower over in the corner because the showers used to go around like that. So I was there, he was there, and this massive geezer come walking in, and I've spotted him because I'm facing the door at this time when I'm washing myself. Always one of them never really have your back to the door kind of things, you know what I mean? So I'm showering, I'm cleaning myself up, and then this geezer's walked in. He's gone straight up to my man, and he's obviously back his to the door. He's showering away, having a whale of a time with his Radox and that. And the guy's gone straight up to him, and he's literally cut him from head to toe.
No way.
Cut him. He was going for it, literally, really, really, the claret was everywhere. Obviously, blood and water, mate. It looks. It was a bad little mess.
It's naughty, isn't it? And when you see the choppings in jail, you can see I've just seen some naughty ones where it's like it's a small razor blade, but it really opens up like your whole flesh,
his
and that.
back was ruined, mate.
It's disgusting,
and he was screaming, and obviously I was witness to that. But you know, nothing's gonna come from my mouth. Like, I never see that. Do you know what I mean?
You got to be like that.
Yeah,
obviously.
100%. So as he's gone walking out, he's looked at me, and all he did was that. That's all. To be fair, that's all he had to fucking do. Like, do you know what I mean? The guy was a unit, like, and he was only my age. He was wide, just like me, but he was huge. And he just went like that, and I was just like you know, like I've got. So I've gone back to my cell. And like my pad mate was like, you know, what's happened and all that. I said, yeah, don't worry about it. And then within seconds, like all the alarms have gone off and that. Everyone who was out on the landing banged up. Boom, 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 all the doors have gone. Yeah. And then the next day, obviously the showers then got like taped off. That's a scene.
Yeah.
And then I was out on exercise, and over in the far corner of exercise, obviously geezer that had done the slashing was out there with all of his boys, and these boys look quite tasty. Do you know? I mean, compared to little old me at that point, they was like tasty little boys, and they've called me over, and obviously straight away, my heart is racing. I'm thinking, why they think I've snitched or something, and I generally haven't said anything. Do you know what I mean? And they all just basically spotted me. Yeah, bruv, respect, bruv. Like, and then from that moment on, this last 7 months I had left was a breeze. Yeah. So I actually. Witnessing that, as bad for you, bro, but like for witnessing for that and me not saying anything actually worked out in my favour.
Yeah, you got respect for that.
Yeah, exactly. I would never have said anything anyway, do you know what I mean? But it was still, you know, you just kept with the code of you just
not talking,
don't say nothing. Nah.
See nothing, hear nothing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the worst thing I've ever seen, to be fair.
Yeah. I just want to get onto like, you know, your release, and because I know you've been doing amazing things, bro. I've checked out a lot of your stuff. I know you're doing something at the moment, but you've done a lot of work with in TV.
Yeah.
You've done you're doing things in the community and stuff. But can you talk me through, you know, first of all, before you get onto that, how did you make that transition? Well, after coming, how did you make that transition? And was it easy? How did you make it?
Nah, I didn't at first. I struggled at first when I first come out. For a good few years, still got back in like under the radar, shotting out, you know, just doing bits. Still got involved in like gangy stuff. I don't know. It always found me, that lifestyle. It was all I knew, so it was really hard to shake it. Always wanted to be around boys. Always wanted to do mad stuff. Always wanted to make money. And obviously, I had jail mentality when I got out, and I was just back. Yeah, I need to make money again, like quickly. But it was, I changed. I had like a bit of a breakdown. 2016, I met my missus I'm with now when I got out of jail. And I had a bit of a breakdown. I was smashing sniff. I was sniffing like there's no tomorrow. I was taking Valiums. I was just off my nut all the time. Caused absolute aggro at my house. I'd had a kid with her at this point. I had my boy, Tyler. And yeah, I was just uncontrollable. So we broke up. I got removed from the house. Obviously, the feds have been involved again because I've literally crackers. I tried to take my life. Like I just weren't right. Yeah. And obviously, like we've talked about already, all the traumatic stuff that's gone on. All this now is all catching up with me. Do you know what I mean? Because now I'm not like I wasn't really taking the drugs and stuff, and then now it was all coming back.
You had to face it now.
Yeah, and that was hard. I had a massive breakdown. So anyway, I had a bit of a blowout for a few months, and then I decided that I've had enough. I'd lost all desire for it. Like, that's it. I need to grow up. I've got kids now. I need to be a role model. And and then I stopped, and I thought I need to access some support for my issues that I've been through and start talking about my stuff. Yeah. So that's what I did. And I was doing some volunteer work with a drug and alcohol service at the time, and I put some work in, like 8:30 till 4 every day. I was doing some support groups and stuff, opening up, talking about all my mental health issues and stuff. And I ended up gaining employment with the service that was supporting me. Wow. So that kind of gave me a foot in the door, really. Gave me some employment responsibility that I'd never had, because I've always been involved in crime or selling drugs, and, you know, doing things legally now, and I'm getting a wage packet because I've worked for it, instead of just answering a phone and doing a couple of shots in an alleyway. Like, I'm actually working hard. So there was a lady that was, she did a lot of stuff like restorative wise with like gang members and stuff like that. And I'd spoken with her and she was interested in me doing some stuff with kids in schools. So talking about my lifestyle and like, you know, knife crime stuff and shootings and like just loads of different stuff that she wanted me to share with the kids. So I started doing that voluntarily with the police, which was really ironic because I never ever thought that I'd ever be in a Fed station.
Yeah.
That wasn't my vicinity. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't like the police.
Yeah.
What reason did I not have to like the police though? This is what I kept questioning myself for. Like, do I not like the police just because of like the uniform and just because that's my code or
authority?
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I had to get over that. If I wanted to do this kind of line of work, I had to get over it. I had to take full responsibility for my actions and for what I've done that's caused the police to actually pay me attention in the first place.
Yeah.
So I helped out. I did the volunteer work with them and I was going in schools and I was running workshops and I was doing like the county line exploitation grooming workshops for like the Safer Communities team, and there was kids that was involved in this stuff, and I was doing little role plays with them and how to kind of get out of that lifestyle without saying no.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? There's ways around these things. We're like, look, we're looking for vulnerable people, not people that are continually doing things with your parents and stuff. Because if you go missing and we send you reading somewhere, they're going to be on the phone to the police instantly. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's ways around these. There's ways around it. Yeah. And then thankfully from that, like this police officer saw me run this workshop and he enjoyed the way that I ran it. And there was an opportunity for an early intervention role that came up that the Home Office have funded like £1 million for.
Word.
And I went for the job and ended up doing that job for about 2.5 years. Helped quite a lot of kids, running workshops in schools now, doing it properly. And
fulfilling, innit? Fulfilling, innit?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was really rewarding. I helped quite a lot of kids at that point. I think like over the course of like 2.5 years, I helped like 77 kids.
Wow. Yeah.
And I worked throughout the whole of COVID as well.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable I was seeing face to face and still keeping them active, you know, like, because obviously COVID was like hard for a lot of people. Yeah. Lucky I was allowed to still work and go out my house and stuff. And not many people was that lucky.
Respect, man.
Yeah. So that then kind of like, I then did like, the TV stuff started. Like I got offered an opportunity to do a live performance on a stage for theatre. Yeah. And I'm dyslexic. If I'm reading lines, I'm reading the same line about 30 times before I even know what it says. Do you know what I mean? And he offered me this role for this theatre production, and I had 3 pages of lines to learn within a few weeks, and I surprised myself. I went on stage, smashed it out, remembered every line. Everyone was buzzing, shaking my hand at the end of it. Fucking hell, we might like you. That was brilliant. I thought, sweet, this is what I want to get into. So I got an agent, ended up doing some background work and stuff, and did a couple of scenes with like Made in Chelsea.
You done some Made in Chelsea scenes?
Yeah. So I did.
Bro, that's my guilty pleasure. You know, I watched
Chelsea.
Yeah, I watched that, bro. From jail, innit? I just got into it. I still watch it now. But what scenes? What
it was it's just like extra work and artsy stuff. Like it was, you know. I didn't have the tattoos on my face, so I was quite clear cut on the face. I've done like a couple of scenes in Mayfair and in Kensington and stuff, and there was like a 12-hour shoot in a nightclub that we had to do. Yeah. I think this was for a release for one of the blokes in there. He was releasing a new lager. Yeah. So that was the release of the lager. So we was doing like a 12-hour shoot there, and that was like where all the Prince and all that, Prince William and stuff, they go to this actual club. Yeah. It's a proper swanky club. Yeah. So then I did that, and then I got the feel for it. I thought, yeah, I like all this. This is what I want to do. Yeah. So I made a decision to like, you know, put the youth stuff aside and try and go for that. Yeah. But the minute that, because I was getting offered loads of work, it was equivalent to like probably about 14 grand's worth of work. And I was thinking, oh my God, because I was working in a school at this time. And I was thinking, mate, I'm like earning like £1,200 a month working in a school. And I'm just basically getting offered all this work that's going to like pay quite a lot of thousands of pounds. Mm. So I quit my job. But then when I quit my job, it all slowed down. Yeah. So it backfired on me a little bit. Yeah. So
it's not about the money, is it?
Nah. Yeah. So and then I also found in this industry as well, it's not about it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's how it works with this industry. Yeah. Like, you know, luckily, you know, I know quite a lot of people now. Yeah. And I've met some good people along the way as well. So and then so I then decided that I still wanted to do the youth work. That was my baby. The youth work was for me. So
Respect,
me and my missus decided to set up our own project.
Yeah.
Done a few podcasts along the way on this as well, sharing my story and talking about my life and that, which was quite inspirational for other kids to be watching and stuff. I used to get quite a lot of messages and that. And then me and my missus decided to set up our own youth project, and sat there on the sofa one day, wrapped up a website. And luckily I had loads of links for like schools and social services and stuff like that. So I banged out a load of emails, projects come in, this project's come in, got a bit of funding pumped into it. And and then Project Youth was born. So since Project Youth's been born, I filmed a documentary with a woman in Manchester. Yeah. Her name's Kelly Brown. She lost her kid Romero West. He was stabbed to death in Manchester the first day of college. No. And I went up there and I filmed her, did a walk through Manchester, shot down the road, and that cars was all mounted up behind us and that. She told me about these bleed control cabinets. So I've been thinking, wow, like, why have we got them everywhere? Yeah. Like, these bleed control cabinets, knife crime's mental at the moment. Like, kids are moving crazy. We need to start wrapping up with these bleed control cabinets and putting them on the walls. Yeah. So
what are those, by the way?
So bleed control cabinets, they're catastrophic bleed kits. Yeah. So if anyone's got a catastrophic bleed, if like one of your main arteries and that is severed, this kit will save your life until an ambulance comes. Yeah. So I think they're paramount to have on walls.
Of course,
now.
Yeah.
You know, so many kids are getting killed.
Yeah, really good.
So that was the new scheme that I was putting together. There was a lady that already designed this stuff and all that, but obviously down south where I live, there was none. So I was the first to install them, which obviously picked up big news. So luckily for me, obviously all ITV and BBC all wanted a piece of the news and stuff. But then again, on the other side of it, I got on Good Morning Britain live on studio with Martin Lewis and Kate Garraway. So I was talking live in front of like 1 million or so people that watch it every day on Good Morning Britain. So as soon as that happened, everything went mental. My LinkedIn, my socials went crazy when I was on Good Morning Britain. So that basically put it out a little bit more for me, so it raised more awareness, so a lot of more people wanted to get involved with it. So up to date now, I've managed to get up 4 kits across Sussex. I've got another 4 that's going to go out, 5 is going to go out first week of November. So then for South East, that's going to be about 11 boxes that we've got up to that point. I'm in contact with Met Police at the moment. So Met Police are looking to install quite a few boxes around their districts that they've got, as well as bang me into a few London hotspot schools. Because I also do bleed control training as well for young people. Wow, and I think it's key to do the young people for bleed control training because it's the youngers that are on the road. Of course. So if they're involved in that lifestyle and, you know, the unforeseen was to happen and someone was to be stabbed and they've done some training, they're going to know what to do to save their pal's life. Do you know what I mean? Some people aren't so lucky and they do get like served up quite a lot and they're unsavable. Do you know what I mean? But you might have that occasion where that someone can actually be saved. They've had one stab wound, they are bleeding, but you've just trained of learning how to stop that bleed. So now you're potentially saving your friend. So we're running that through schools at the moment as well. So,
bro,
really busy.
I totally respect that, man. And you know, you're doing a lot. There's someone that I'm gonna link you up with afterwards because I think you do well with him. But yeah, bro, thank you for coming down.
Oh, thank you.
Telling your story. Crazy story, man. You know, I'm gonna go back and really think about this one as well, man. This is proper deep. And yeah, I'm gonna put all your information in the description so anyone watching, you can go and access his stuff, go and check him out. And thank you for coming down, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I love it.
Come on. Delinquent Nation, Prison Diaries, we're out.